Hey, y'all, and welcome to the Healthy by Heather Brown podcast, where I encourage you in healthy mind, body, and spirit through my Sunday reset. Let's get into it. Okay, friend, this one's going to step on some toes in the best way. If you've ever wondered what the Bible actually says about food, why your cravings might be more spiritual than physical, or how to steward your body without falling into obsession, buckle up. Today, I've got Chelsea Blackbird, the Christian nutritionist, on the show, and she is bringing the fire when it comes to connecting our faith and our food. We're diving into fasting, food freedom, and how to stop treating your body like a project and start treating it like the temple it already is. This convo is packed with conviction, grace, and practical tips you can actually use. So let's go. I'm so pumped that you were here. It's going to be so great to have you today.
No, I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy we finally connected.
Yes, absolutely. So I was saying to Chelsea before we hit the record button, you guys, that I found her about a year ago. She was on Allie Beth Stuckey's podcast, Relatable. And as I was listening to her talk, I was like, yes, oh my gosh, I love how she's so biblically rooted in her nutrition and the advice that she's giving. And so you really just made me be like cheering on the rooftops to hear somebody else talking about looking to the Bible for how the Lord has gifted us with so much really common sense when you get back to the root of how to eat, you know, but our culture tries to, you know, thwart it and make it way too complicated, as Satan loves to do. So all that said, y'all, Chelsea is a treasure trove of information. Chelsea, will you tell everybody a little bit about what got you started on this journey and how did you become the Christian nutritionist?
Yeah, well, I can tell you it's never in a million years anything I thought I would be doing ever, but that's how God works. So I came to holistic nutrition, as most people do, because I was hitting brick walls with my own health goals. I have a genetic skin condition, for one. And then I went to doctors for 20 years. I mean, I did major surgery, minor surgery, pills, creams, like you name it. And we finally hit a brick wall. There's nothing more that we can do for you. You just kind of have to live with it. I'm like, all right, well, okay. And that really sucked. And then also I'd always had digestive issues, which my mom always had. And so my genetic skin condition came from my dad. My mom had digestive issues, like super, and I was always constipated. And I was just like, I thought that's just how it was. Like, we're just people, we have bad skin and we can't poop. Like, that's just who we are, So I just went on my merry way, whatever. I'm just gonna have to live with this. We all have something we got to live with, right? Until I was married, I was ready to start having kids. Couldn't conceive in that first year. So we, went to my doctor and he diagnosed me with unexplained infertility, which meant they didn't know what was wrong with me. And I was like, all right. They wanted to, start going down the whole infertility route. And I was like, yeah, whatever we got to do. I want to have babies. Like, this is all I've ever wanted to be as a mom.
How old were you at this point, Chelsea?
I was about 29, 30. I'd been married about 6 years. My husband is a grass-fed cattle rancher, and I moved from the big city to the country. And so I was enjoying country living for a while. And then, but anyway, he was not on board with doing any kind of fertility treatments at all. And I was devastated. And that was a really tough time in our marriage. And I always joke, he was like, listen, they can't even tell you what's wrong with you. And let me just tell you, sometimes it just takes a while for the heifers to get bred. And you just
what every wife wants to hear.
I was like, are you serious right now? So needless to say, that was a little bit challenging time, because I felt like he was blocking our chance to have children. But anyway, as we often do in that kind of situation, I mean, I just was like, all right, I was desperate. I was like, what can I do? So I started researching, what can I do is there anything I can do? I ended up going to a naturopath who changed my diet. And I also read a book called Taking Charge of Your Fertility. So that was a big piece of it. And then I also learned about my body because I didn't know anything about my body. And then I changed my diet. I had been dabbling with gluten-free, but I totally went gluten-free, and he gave me some supplements like some fatty acids and some different things just kind of bridged the gaps of things that I was missing. I had been eating a standard American diet at the time. 6 weeks later, I was pregnant.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. And I was like, are you kidding? I mean, I was elated.
That's like immediate.
Yeah, exactly. I was elated, and I was also kind of ticked off, like that no doctor had ever said, hey, what do you eat?
Yeah.
What's your diet like? Do you, have you tracked your cycle at all? No, there was nothing of that. And just doing that, I was able to conceive naturally and learning about my body. And that's when I just started voraciously reading about health and nutrition. I stayed gluten-free for a long time. I changed my diet. Lo and behold, my genetic skin condition went away. My digestive issues got better. Yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. So I was reading so much. I was like, wow, I could probably be certified by now. I have read so much. So I just was like, I'm going to look into some certification programs. I became certified, really wasn't going to do anything with it. I just really actually wanted a little credibility because I wanted my people to listen to me. Nobody would listen to me. My family, my friends, I'm like, listen to me. This is life-changing. Nobody will listen. I'm like, maybe if I get the certification, they will listen. And believe me, they still really don't. But
I hear that. Like strangers on the internet are like, Heather, what do you think is wrong with me? And my parents are like, you don't know what you're talking about. What's fine?
Exactly. 100%. So, but after I completed that and I learned so much, I was like, there's no way I can keep this to myself. That just even feels wrong. If I could just help one person like get through what I did, that would be incredible. And so it wasn't long after that. At the time I was reading my Bible and, going to Bible study and stuff. But after that, everything I was reading in the Bible, like, to me, it was like God put a lens on my eyeballs and everything related to health and nutrition. It was like this weird thing. And after a while, I just felt him calling me, like just tapping on my brain, like beep, beep, beep. I want you to call yourself the Christian Nutritionist. I was like, what? No. I am very private with I've always been a believer, but I'm very private like that. I'm like, that's very evangelical, Lord. That's not really my style. Okay. I was like, no. And I'm like, certainly there's people that know more about the Bible, know more about nutrition. I just graduated in my program, but he would not let up. And so I was like, all right, okay. And that's really where that came from. And I've been a Christian nutritionist for about 12 years. And I will tell you, over these years, people tell me I found you because I Googled the Christian Nutritionist.
And, wow. Mm-hmm. Cool. And you're like, okay, God wink moment. So neat.
Yeah. So that's what came of it. And, it's been a wild ride.
So now knowing what you know now, how do you think all that worked? Like you went gluten-free. And you took amino acids. So how did that help you get pregnant now that you know the science?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it did have to do with learning about my body, reading about the timing of what was going on. I tracked my cycle. I took my temperature. I checked my cervical fluid. I did all that. But going gluten-free at the time, just lowering that inflammation, bringing that inflammation, really filling in with some fatty acids. That was a big thing. Bringing in some fatty acids because, fatty acids are one of the most important things to grow a baby. We need it for cell membranes. You need it to grow their brain. But generally speaking, I just don't think my body was ready to grow a baby, had what it needed. Growing a baby is a very big deal. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think in a lot of cases, our bodies are just like, we don't have what we need here, sister. Like you're going to be given a lot of nutrition to this baby you're going. It's going to suck you dry of all your, of all your nutrients and you ain't got none to give. And I think, basically that's what I feel like it was. It's like, we're not in a position to do that. And so just bringing down the inflammation, starting to eat better, learning, bridging that gap with some supplements, bringing in those fatty acids. My body was like, all right, let's go.
Now we're ready.
And we're trending that way. You're on the right track. Okay, let's do this thing. And
that's so cool.
Yeah, that's kind of really what I felt it boiled down to.
Yeah. So your body was like, I trust you now. You're going to take care of me. You're going to give me the nutrition I need to nourish the baby. That's incredible.
Yes.
Do you still recommend that book, Chelsea, for people that are trying to conceive?
I do. I think it's a great book. There's a lot on the market now, but I think she even came out with even an updated edition. It's still a very popular book. It was instrumental for me.
Wow. That's amazing. Well, I'll link that down in the show notes, you guys, so you can grab it, I'm sure on Amazon or what have you.
Yeah.
But Chelsea, give everybody a little bit of in a nutshell, what does the Bible actually say about food and how we should eat if they're not trying to get pregnant, just in general?
Oh, well, just in general, I think we can look to two verses, Genesis 1:26 and Genesis 9:3. Eat plants, eat meat. I mean, like it really comes down to that. I think, and just generally speaking, I think over the years, there's just so much noise. There's so much noise about what to eat, what to don't eat, plant-based, animal-based, like this or that. And if you just look to scripture, it becomes very simple. It's just, eat high quality plant foods, eat high quality animal foods. And so, I've had a lot of people also ask me like, we started in the Garden of Eden. Shouldn't we all be vegetarians? I'm like, well, did you read past Genesis 9? I don't know. Because, God did give us meat. Why did he give it to us? I don't know. There's a lot of speculation out there, but he did. And he gets very specific about what kind of meat to eat. We can look in Leviticus to that. And lo and behold, right there, he's telling us, he's recommending to the Israelites to eat red meat from ruminant animals like cattle and deer and sheep and goat and bison. Those are ruminant animals, and they're all red meat. And he gets very specific, don't eat pork. And he's so specific about the fish, the kind of seafood we eat, all of those things. And so even though when we get to the New Testament and we know that, Jesus, basically says, food rules are off the table, so to speak, right? Like what you eat does not take you closer to God. I mean, God, whatever you eat is not going to separate you from God. But I think we can still look back into what the advice that God gave the Israelites. I mean, I kind of consider that his gold standard advice for what absolutely. To eat, and we can look to that to get a feeling for what the best foods are to eat. And that does include red meat. And so that, it was really funny. The other day, we were doing some Lenten lunches at my church, and a pastor was coming down through the line. And we happened to be serving pork, which wasn't my choice. And I do love me some bacon. Don't get me wrong. But this pastor said, is this red meat or white meat? And we're like, it's pork, it's white meat. And he said, oh, okay, I can eat that then. My doctor just told me to stay away from red meat because of cholesterol. And I mean, I'm like, I don't know if I can get my eyes, like they're so rolled back in my head. I don't know if they can come back down. I'm like, dude, you're a pastor. Have you read the book of Leviticus? I'm like, come on now. God, in fact, God said eat red meat and not to eat pork. But, it's just so shocking to me. And it's just so out of whack out there. So anyway.
And Chelsea, do you mind explaining a little bit about that? Because I'm actually doing Jordan Rubin's Christian health coach certification right now. And he actually just went through like, if you can avoid pork, great. If you can avoid even like, I didn't know this. I thought shrimp and like different seafood, all of it was healthy for you. No. And it's apparently, especially in the Bible, it talks about how those bottom feeders, it's actually God was trying to protect us from intaking all this crap that's on the bottom of the ocean floor that they're taking in. And so I was like, whoa, my mind was blown. So do you mind expanding on that a little bit? Why people think and have heard from their doctor, don't eat red meat and it's bad for your cholesterol. And then how would you combat that answer?
Yeah, exactly. Well, first of all, if we look like at the red meat, when God recommended eating ruminants, it's, animals that chew the cud and have a split hoof. That's what ruminant animals are. Ruminant animals have a 4-part stomach and they just have a more extensive digestive process. Whereas like pork and even chickens are monogastric animals. They have one stomach like we do. And, I like to think of it as that there's not as much detoxification happening, to kind of weed things out, time to kind of change that. And so they soak up a lot more. We're going to get more toxins, in other words, than we would from a ruminant animal. And, I tell people like, if you're going to the store, I mean, listen, I'm married to a grass-fed cattle rancher, so I'm like, get grass-fed beef. However, if you're in a tight budget and you have to choose between, upgrading your poultry versus upgrading your beef, I'd say spend the money on upgraded poultry because it's going to be, or your pork, that's going to be dirtier than your conventional beef, so to speak.
Because the chickens only have the one stomach, they're not detoxing as much of the crap out of their system before you eat it. Is that the process?
Yes. Like the pork, even though, I do think grass-fed beef, pastured, beef is superior, but, in this day and age, and I mean, groceries are expensive. And so I just try to help people the best that they can. And it's so much better just to eat more protein than eat Cheetos. So, there's levels that we have to consider here, right? Yeah. So that's one example, but then you're exactly right. The shrimp, the shellfish in general, these bottom feeders are like picking up the garbage off the ocean floor. And I also think, back then there was maybe more primitive cooking techniques. There was more risk, right, for maybe undercooking and getting some kind of pathogen or something, a parasite or something like that.
Sure.
And today, maybe we're not quite as risk, but still, they're not the healthiest. But I'm with you because it's like one of the things I want to ask God when I get to heaven, like shrimp. They're so packed of protein, it's like such a good source of protein. And like we were talking about, trying to get more protein in your life, right? Why do you do that, God? Why you make it why you make lobster so yummy and then be like, don't have it? So right? I can't answer that, but yeah, they're just because they have more of a risk of carrying those things or just eating garbage. And so,
yeah, so
not the best source.
I feel like that's a really good takeaway, y'all. So she's saying if you are going to spend more money on meat, then to try to spend more money potentially on beef or something with multiple stomachs that's going to detox it versus the chicken. Or actually, maybe you're saying the other way. If possible, you want to buy organic chicken. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Whereas beef, it's not as important, maybe.
Right. I mean, if you have to choose, I think if we can choose it all and choose grass-fed beef, pastured pork, pastured chicken, that is ideal. But if you're looking at the meat counter and you're like, this is my budget and I can only upgrade one of these meats, I would upgrade the chicken or the pork over having to upgrade the red meat, just because I feel like it's, being a ruminant animal, you've just got a little bit more protective measure. Another thing that you can do normally, I'm like, fat is a healthy thing, but the lower quality meat you're getting, you do want to get a leaner cut because animals, like people, we store toxins in our fat, right? And so if we're eating an animal that is conventionally raised, this is a way more of a problem. And this is a lot of the reason you want to upgrade with pork or chicken is because the way that they're eating so much of the soy and the corn and the seed oils, and you're just not going to get quite as much protection as you are with your ruminant animals. Yet that's still an issue. And so if I am eating some kind of conventional meat, I would recommend a leaner cut.
Yeah, that's good. One thing that I thought that I would love for you to expand upon a little bit is, because my chiropractor and naturopath has come on and talk about this some, but number one, when we talk about detoxification, I feel like that's something that we as in 2025, going into 2026 before we know it, like what do we as Americans, what are we up against as far as detoxing? What does that mean? How do we do it well? Like, it just feels like we're up against so much right now. And so I'd love to hear how you recommend people detox in this day and age.
Yeah. Well, of course, eating a good diet, but I'll tell you, I'm actually writing a post about this right now because I love coming at detoxification from a quantum biology perspective.
Ooh, okay. Let's get fancy.
Yeah, which is not, I love quantum biology and the fact that our bodies need a lot of electrical charge. We need a lot of, this is kind of going, I don't know how much you've covered anything like this, but our body needs lots of electrons to be healthy. We need to have more electrons than protons, which we can get from sunshine, which we can get from grounding, which we store in the water in our body. So I have a whole approach I call the Genesis prescription, which is really looking to the book of Genesis and the creation story I think it holds everything we need to know about what we need to be healthy. But when we hold this negative charge in our body is more resilient to fighting off these toxic elements that we bring in. I almost think of it like a bug zapper in a way. That's just a very, like bzz, like we have more like bzz ability, right? To get rid of it. And then when we're depleted of our negative charge, we're just much more vulnerable. So on a that's kind of a bigger quantum biology level, but just kind of on your regular day-to-day basis, obviously upgrading your food, supporting the detoxification organs, supporting drainage. That's one thing I always tell people, drainage before detox. You cannot push any kind of detox. I mean, I do have some detox protocols that I love to take people through, but not if we don't have drainage open first. And your drainage pathways are like, are you pooping? Are your kidneys releasing? How's the health of your liver? We have to support the mitochondria and all of these organs to make sure that they're working before we start pushing detox. So that's a really key part of it too. That's not always discussed. But one thing I really love to have on hand is a binder. I don't know. Do you use a binder in your life?
I do not. Tell me about it.
Here's a question to think about. What do you actually need right now to feel your best? More focus, more calm, better sleep, or maybe just that spark of energy to keep up with your people? I recently discovered Troscriptions. It's a science-backed, physician-formulated company that's taking health optimization to the next level with something called a buccal troche. It's this tiny dissolvable lozenge you tuck between your cheek and your gum, and because it bypasses digestion, it kicks in fast, like 15 to 30 minutes fast. My personal favorite is the Tro Blue Canatine. It's their focus and productivity blend. You can think of it as like a clean, clinical-grade brain tool that helps me go from mom mode to podcast mode with clarity and confidence. It's clean energy, clinical grade, and you'll feel the difference. You can try it at troscriptions.com/Heather or use code Heather for 10% off your first order.
Well, binders they're a supplement that they act like a magnet that better bind up toxins, toxic elements in the body for more efficient excretion.
Oh, okay.
And probably a binder a lot of people are familiar with would be something like charcoal. Okay?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
But charcoal, and that's one that, if in a pinch, you could use that. But you have to take charcoal away from food and supplements. It stays localized in the belly. I like something more humic and fulvic acid based, which can work a little bit more systemically and has a little bit more leniency about being taken with other foods and supplements. So I like to have some kind of binder on hand, especially if you're eating out or you're on vacation. Certain binders you can take regularly. Some you can't because they can pull too many vitamins and minerals from the body. But having a good binder on hand can be very helpful. So that's one thing that I recommend a lot to my people.
So you're saying, like, let's say that I went out to dinner tonight and had Chick-fil-A. I would want to make sure and take my binder because it's going to pull all that stuff out of my body. But then I wouldn't take it tomorrow if I was eating healthy stuff at home.
Right.
Is that how it works?
Yeah. And it's not I don't want to give anybody the impression it's like a magic pill, like, oh, I can eat whatever I eat these Cheetos and it's going to like negate all the things. No, it doesn't do that. There is no magic pill. It just it helps blunt the effects a little bit, if you will. And it's going to, bring it all together so you can get it out of the body a little bit easier, but you got to be pooping, right? And it binds it up, but you got to be able to poop it out. So that's really important. A lot of people are constipated and have digestive issues. So we got to make sure all that's working, those drainage pathways. But yeah, I love a binder. I think that's one of my favorite supplements to have on hand.
Do you have one that you could recommend that I could link in the show notes later? Maybe you could send me a link or something.
Yes. Yeah. I'll send you some links in the show notes.
Great. I would love that. Okay. Awesome. Well, I'll keep us going then. So when she mentioned getting outside and talking about the sunshine, we talk about that all the time. So important.
Good. Yeah, good.
However, when you mentioned grounding, we haven't talked a ton about that. We briefly talked about it, but essentially you're wanting to get outside barefoot and connect to, as funny as it sounds, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chelsea, you're saying the electromagnetic field of the earth, correct?
Yeah, the earth is the greatest reservoir of electrons. It's regularly replenished by lightning. And our body, again, needs to have more electrons than protons. We're electrical beings. And so it's this incredible way that God made our body in relation to creation is that we need electrons. We need a lot of them. And the earth is full of them. And so when we come into contact, our bare skin, usually our feet, because we're walking around with grass, dirt, sand, rocks, even concrete. If it's over the ground, you can ground through concrete, but our body pulls in electrons and they go to sites of inflammation in the body. And so it's one of the best ways really to help reduce inflammation and just really help maintain that negative charge. We can also make electrons from UV light on our skin. So while you're out there, get your sunshine, get your grounding, and you just really charge yourself up.
Gosh, I love that.
The charge. Yeah.
Well, and that's like we talk about all the time, like God made us to be outside. And so one of the things I firmly believe that one of the things that is truly killing us from the inside out, mentally, spiritually, and physically, is just how a lot of us are just trapped inside all day long under fluorescent lights, not in the sunshine, not outside. And it's like, and it happens to our kids. So that's why as soon as my kids get home, I'm like, get outside. Like, you don't got to put your shoes on. Just get outside, go play with whatever you want to, but you got to get outside in the sunshine.
Yes, exactly. I mean, just think of our biblical brothers and sisters, our great, ancestors even just spent so much time outside. And they were wearing clothes that were a little bit more conductive than we have today. Like their shoes would have been made out of natural fibers, which will, like leather, which will allow some conductivity, not as much as if you're barefoot, but you are able to soak in a little bit more of all of these things that we need from outside when you are in more natural fibers. And today we're just in all these synthetic fibers. We have, big plastic tennis shoes on. We're just so disconnected from this provision that God has given us to be well. It's, over the years, like I said, I've been doing this for 12, 13 years, and I started out strictly just in nutrition and helping people with food. But here in the past 5 to 6 years, God gave me that download of the Genesis prescription. I'm like, food's important. It is so important, but we need all of these things to be well. And when we look to the creation story, we see sunshine and water and earth and plant food and animal food and breath and rest and movement and fellowship. And those are all these components that we need that bigger picture to be well. And I think this is so fascinating. Speaking of, picking up these electrons that we need, we can get electrons in 3 major ways: the sun, the earth, and from food. If you are not getting them from outside, and we're supposed to get most of our electrons from the sun and the earth, if you're not doing that, guess where you have to get more of them from? Food.
Oh, because it's grown from the ground. If you're eating the right thing, or it's animals that are outside, right? Yes, you have to get them from food. Yes. I mean, our food is grown under the sunshine in the ground. So it's like God's like, I'm going to give you electrons one way or the other. But if you're not getting them from outside, you're going to be more reliant on getting them from food, meaning you're going to be driven to eat more food. You're going to have to eat more food because your body has to have electrons. If you're getting them in a more balanced way, if you're getting all these when we talk about what our body uses to make energy, that's what we need from food. We need electrons. Yes, we need some of these, we need vitamins and minerals, but what your body uses to make energy is electrons. You have to have them. If you're not getting electrons from outside, you're going to have to get them from your food. And so anyway, you'll need to eat more, basically. Wow.
And this is a huge missing piece of the conversation when it comes to how we eat and cravings and appetite regulation and all these things.
All those things. Oh my gosh. Well, okay. While we're on it, I do have to ask you, what is your thought with appetite regulation? I feel like it's all across the board right now. Some doctors are saying, well, a microdose of a GLP-1 isn't that bad for you. And some people are saying like, oh, well, unfortunately, most doctors in America are saying, oh, you're 13 or older, like get on a GLP-1. What can it hurt is what it feels like. And then some people are like, no, never. What is your take on all that?
I'm in the middle. I think they can be used responsibly. They have been used for many, many, many years. I mean, it feels very new. And I don't have a lot of experience with them, but I've interviewed enough doctors that do. And they've been around a very, very long time. The way that they are packaged now in like Ozempic pens and stuff like that and being marketed is, I think that's very dangerous because they're overdosed and there's, they're just kind of being used without a lot of guidance. But I think for the right person, if you had the right guidance, the right person, the right guidance, the right situation, I don't think there's anything wrong with it necessarily.
Okay, cool. Well, I've had an episode on this in the past, so I'll link back to that too with my naturopath. And y'all know that I haven't told you this yet, Chelsea, but I just started doing the Make Wellness peptides. Okay. And so they're taken out of nature via AI, and you can take lean and fit, but it's nothing synthetic. It's not prescription. And it's just, I love that it's really as close to as it can be to nature with supporting your body. But anyway, then I feel like there's a few other things I want to get into. I know that you talked some about fasting. We know Jesus fasted. I've done multiple episodes about fasting. I'd love to hear how you view spiritual fasting and metabolic fasting and how you navigate both, or do you feel like you're still mastering that? What does that look like for you?
I think always mastering it, but I think that, well, this is one thing I always tell people, because I think intermittent fasting is wonderful, and I think it's very helpful. And I think we're, you look historically, like dinner was dinner and then that was it. Like you didn't go back and eat after dinner like we do today, right? Like that was historically how it was until like the 1950s. And then we have all these snack foods and stuff. So that our bodies are built to have a fasting period. And I think even an intermittent fast is honoring the way that God made our body to be metabolically flexible, to be able to go an amount of time without eating. And that is the time that we are detoxing overnight, when we have that nice chunk of time when we're fasting. And so I think a lot of people don't want to look at an intermittent fast as something that we can use to honor God, but I disagree. I think it's honoring the way he designed us. Yeah. So I think there's that. And then I do, like you said, you do a longer fast, regularly a couple times a week. And I agree with that. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. And in that time, especially when we're doing a longer fast like that, that's the time to really, like to say, like, feast on the Lord. And in that time, find the ways to, lean on him, make that time more special, where you're really listening and maybe just spending a little bit more time with him. And I think it's interesting, when we do a longer fast and we're burning fat and we're burning some ketones, and we know ketones, it's very good for mental clarity and kind of opening the mind. It makes us more receptive to hearing from the Lord. I mean, those, yes. It's working together physically, mentally, and spiritually in a fast. It's all coming together. And I think that is just, it's so incredible. We don't have to separate those things, because, our God is a father of gifts, and he gives us all of these things together, and we can honor them in each of those ways.
I love that. It's so empowering, for sure. Now, I know that you said that you used to be gluten-free, and I think that you're not anymore. So what made you decide to come off of gluten-free? Do you still recommend gluten-free for some of your clients, or do you occasionally go back to it? Or what is your stance on gluten-free now?
Yeah. So I was gluten-free for 10 years.
Whoa.
And yeah. Solid. And then about 2.5, 3 years ago, well, first of all, I always had this cognitive dissonance, because I'm like, Jesus is the bread of life. There's a lot of bread talking in the Bible. And
yes,
I'm like, true. And so, but I'm like, well, we don't have the same, bread today that we did back then. And that is the truth. But then I came across a lady, I don't know if you've heard of Sue Becker and her work. No. But I had her on my podcast. One of my clients sent me a video that she'd done, and she made a lot of sense, and she looks at it from a biblical perspective. And she said, it's the flour. And when we grind our own wheat, so I grind my own freshly milled flour, when we get organic grains, wheat berries, and we grind them ourselves, we have the bran and the germ and the endosperm intact. So you have the whole thing intact. Mm. What we're eating today is flour-based foods that have been stripped of the bran and the germ. That's where all of the nutrition is. And what's left is gluten and starch, gluten and sugar. And so no wonder, no wonder people have such an issue. It's, with gluten, it's just much more pronounced. Yeah. Right. There's no protection from all these other, because we've stripped away the bran and the germ when you're eating processed wheat. And so I was convinced enough to try it. And so I got myself a mill, ordered some wheat berries, organic wheat berries, and ground my own wheat and made my own bread. And it's amazing. It's delicious. I've had no trouble. Now, I'm not celiac. So, I just felt like I had a gluten sensitivity. I do have 2 aunts with celiac disease. And I just always thought, well, I'm just going to be gluten-free my whole life. Now, I do remain gluten-free aside from eating this big bread products that I make myself.
Sure.
Which is really funny, because I used to tell my clients, like, you can't be a little bit gluten-free. That's like being a little bit pregnant. You either are or you aren't. But I'm eating my words
and
now.
Here you are.
I know, because I don't, I will eat this wheat bread that I have made, that I have milled the wheat myself. But other than that, I stay gluten-free, because all of those things are they're just not healthy forms of flour, and it's interesting. A lot of people make sourdough bread, but they are using store-bought flour, and you're just sourdoughing the starch and the gluten, basically.
Oh, dang. Yeah. Oh, I'm like that's a really hard truth bomb to hear, but there you have it.
It is. And I haven't done sourdough yet. It's my next level. I think like the ultimate level of sourdough is like making sourdough with freshly milled flour. I think that's like gold star, awesome, amazing. But,
so impressive.
But if you're getting any kind of flour off the shelf at the store, the reason that they strip the bran and the germ away is so it can be shelf stable, because that's like you got fatty acid in there and stuff. And so it'll go rancid on the shelf. So they have to strip that to make it shelf stable. So even if you're getting organic flour at the store, you're still just getting that gluten and starch. You're not getting any of those protective elements. And so, and even like if, somebody buying wheat bread in the store, it's also not the same. It has also been processed. It's also been stripped, and then they add some things back in, but it's not the same thing. Sorry, I hope I'm not bursting, sourdough bubbles here for people. And I know, but it's just, I like to put the information out there. It's something to think about. And so it's kind of so for me, the next step is to do sourdough. So maybe for the people that are doing sourdough, the next step would be to do some freshly milled wheat and put it all together.
Now, how long does it take you to do freshly milled wheat yourself?
Oh my gosh. When you have the right equipment, I have a mill. It literally grinds it in like 30 seconds.
Oh, wow. Okay. So is it a big investment, and is it large in your home?
It's kind of an investment going in, because you got to get the mill, and then you get the grain. I got a lot of grain. You don't have to get that much. And then I use a bread maker. So I even kind of cheat because it speeds up the process. Sure. So I use a bread maker to help make my bread. So those are kind of a lot of things to have and to invest in. And so I think that is a barrier for some people, but once you do, and it's kind of intimidating also, frankly, I was like, this feels like a lot to do and I ain't got no time. But really, once you do it, it's easy. It's not a big deal, and it's delicious and worth it. And
that's awesome. And I will encourage y'all that if you're listening to this and you're like, I can't do any of that, that if nothing else, you can Google Bobby approved bread, and he'll tell you the bread that you could at least get in stores that's like the least offensive.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, listen, this is a process. I was eating gluten-free bread for years, which is not healthy. You know what I mean?
Right. You're like, if anything, it might be worse for you. I'm not sure.
No, for real. Like, honestly, I'm like, this has no, but I'm a person that, I don't ever profess to eat perfectly at all. I definitely build some grace into my eating. So good. I want to eat like a regular person, but I want to eat healthy most of the time. And I think our bodies, if we eat well most of the time, we can handle a little bit of offense some of the time.
A little bit of play money in the bank.
Yeah, exactly. But that gluten-free bread, I never felt good about it. I'm like, this is not healthy at all. And so, I think there's definite bread options that are better than others. And it was a process for me. So I'm just saying that because I don't want anybody to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm doing everything wrong. Like, I didn't do that right or even get to another step for many, 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 many years. So
no worries.
Process. This is the process. This is what I also tell people is like, the taking care of your body, the stewardship of your body is not a 30-day challenge. It is not, there's not a destination. We have to get up and eat every day of our life. Mm-hmm. We have to make choices every single day of our life. Every day is a new opportunity to do that. It's a journey. We learn, we incorporate new things, and, when we know better, we do better. And it's just an ongoing process. And so there's no shame, there's no blame. There's just learning and tweaking and changing and finding what works for you and just moving on from there.
Yes. And also, I want to give a little bit of freedom and grace too. Like, here's a perfect example for me. I love banana pudding, y'all. And so I just made a double batch for Easter. And I went ham on that banana pudding, but I also worked it into my macros after Easter, number one. And number two, I was like, I'm going to finish this. And then when I'm done with it, okay, I'm done with it. And it doesn't mean that I was like, well, now since I have 3 days worth of leftovers, I'm just shot in the foot. And I'm not going to do it the whole week long. It's like, no, I still went to the gym. I still, did my red light, and I still drank my water, and I still took my supplements. It's just realizing, like you said, that it's day in, day out for the rest of your life. You're just making little tweaks to keep getting better, 1% better every day.
Yeah. And if you think you're going to eat perfectly every day for the rest of your life, you're wrong, girl. Like take that burden off of you. So you got to work in this grace, like you're talking about. Yeah. I made a big trifle, which is like cake and fruit and whipped cream and pudding and like this whole big thing. And, I got down on it and I didn't feel guilty because I just embraced it. I enjoyed it. And then I moved on. I didn't make it mean anything. Like I failed. And then like I might as well throw in the towel. And that's where we have to get past, right?
Yes.
And that's all here, and so that there's so much about the way that we steward ourselves that is so mental, which is why we have to renew our minds on it ongoingly as well, because this is where the battle starts, is right here in the brain.
Amen. I so agree. Well, Chelsea, we only have a few minutes left. So if you will just share maybe like your final 30 to 60 seconds encouragement to moms that are like, I really am just so overwhelmed by what to eat, how to teach my kids to eat good. Like, what's a good baseline message to send her out with today?
Oh, I would just want to hug you and give you grace and just remember that, again, like we just said, do the best you can and focus on yourself and nourishing yourself. Cause I get so many moms are like, my family won't get on board and they won't listen, kind of like we're talking about earlier. But, I say you are the example. And if you're consistent and you're steady and they see you keeping your word to yourself as best you can and not swinging from one plan to the other and just feeling better. And they're going to notice those moods and, how much happier you are and steady you are. That rubs off. That ripple effect is far and wide. And so It's like, put on your oxygen mask first, take care of yourself, and your kids are watching and, and they'll pick up more than you think, even if we don't think they're listening, but they really do.
Yes. I love that. Well, Chelsea, tell everybody a little bit about where they can find you online if they want to get your help, and then tell everybody about your podcast too.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I'm the Christian Nutritionist on Instagram, Facebook. That's my website. And then the podcast is the Christian Health Club podcast. And so those are the best places to find me.
Love it. Awesome. Well, Chelsea, I ask everybody in closing, how do you reset?
How do I reset? I like to, number one, go to bed early. That'd be like a daily reset if I can. I am such a grandma. I get in bed as early as like literally last 2 nights. I've gotten in bed at 8. It's ridiculous.
Oh my word. That's amazing though. Wait, how old are your kids?
I read though for a while. They're a little older now. I have teenagers. So they're not as little. They can put themselves to bed and stuff. But then like another way that I love to reset is just to get together with my girlfriends. It was plan a weekend, build up that oxytocin, that fellowship. They're just like fill that love bucket. I think getting those weekends planned in with your friends and the people that you love and fill you up is so incredibly important. So those would be kind of my 2 dailies.
That's a great answer. Well, Chelsea, last but not least, do you mind closing us out in prayer and then we'll hit the road?
Yes, I would love to. Heavenly Father, thank you for this incredible opportunity to be here and speak with Heather and her audience, Lord. I would ask that bless all those ears that are hearing this right now and let them take what they need to from this. And Lord, I just pray your blessing, your grace over each and every person, and to let them know, God, that you are such a good Father and that you made these bodies to honor you and to do the work that you have called us to do in the world. And then that is the purpose. That is the reason that we take care of them. We do it to all honor and glory to you. It is in your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Well, you guys go outside, get your electrons. As you were praying, I actually heard thunder in the background. So I was like, oh, the earth is getting recharged right here in Birmingham, Alabama with that lightning.
There you go.
All right. Awesome. Well, y'all have a beautiful Tuesday, girls gang, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Here at the Healthy by Heather Brown Show, we're on a mission to help women take back their health, mind, body, and spirit God's way. No woo-woo, new age fluff, or mainstream nonsense. In a world pushing quick fixes and burnout, we're choosing real wellness, intentional living, and faith-filled confidence. This show is for you, sister, and it's made possible by this incredible community. If you believe in this mission, here's how you can help. 1, pause and leave a 5-star review. It's free and makes a huge impact. Share with a bestie who needs this message.
3, support the mission financially. Every little bit helps. Links for PayPal and Venmo are in the show notes. Let's rise up and change the culture, showing the world what healthy, empowered, faith-filled women really look like. Okay, friend, that's a wrap on this week's episode. If you're not already following me on Instagram, make sure to screenshot this episode, share it to your stories, and tag @Healthy by Heather Brown so I can connect with you in my DMs. It truly brings me so much joy to see how these episodes impact you. Make sure to subscribe so we can see you back here next Tuesday for our weekly show. In case you don't know, your downloads, ratings, and reviews are the actual lifeblood of this podcast, and it helps spread the word to your friends and family. So please hit the download button on this episode and leave a 5-star rating if you super loved it. And if we're really BFFs, you'll spread the happy and text this podcast link to someone who needs to hear it today for some encouragement. Scroll down to the show notes on this episode to see any and all links mentioned, freebies to fuel your health goals, prayer-related episodes, and the 7-day free trial of my exclusive membership where I personally coach and cheer you on in whole health. While you're there, make sure to check out my Amazon storefront with healthy snacks, my favorite look for less workout outfits, and books and devotionals that challenge me in my faith. If you ever need to find my Amazon storefront, just Google Healthy by Heather Brown Amazon and it will come up. Have a great day, girl gang.